Hey friends, it's the Miss Wolfie from our half acre homestead. Well, I have a cushion that I want to recover for my couch. I don't necessarily want to recover it because, well, who'd want to cover up that awesome picture? This throw pillow was sent to me by my sister Doris. Well, she brought it to us. This was a 25th wedding anniversary gift, and this was the very first picture ever taken of Howie and I. But it's getting covered in dog hair and stuff, so for now, because Gracie loves this pillow, I'm going to put a cover over it just for the holidays. And I could make one. You can make a cover. It doesn't have to be for the holidays. You can take your favorite throw pillow and make a new cover, a slip cover for it, just to protect it anytime. You can change it up throughout the seasons. But what I have here is, I'm going to keep digging, but I have some green Toy Soldier Christmas stuff. I have some ducks, and if you look real close, there's bulrushes and ivy. So I have a little bit of pine fabric, and we'll see what we got. But I'm just going to wing this. Okay, so we have our pillow here, and pretty much what we want to do is, now this pillow actually has a cover that you can take off. We'll take this off. And we'll set it aside, and actually what we have is a nice template size so we can see what size of fabric we need. I am really just winging this, folks. So I think on the back, I'm going to put this because we have a nice big piece of it. And what I love about this project is that a lot of the fabric came from, like this green fabric and the duck fabric came from my sister Dallas Red, and the pillow came from my sister Doris. So they're going to be with me over the holidays. This is what our backing is going to be. Now we have to make a front, and we want it to be 20 by 20. And what I would like to do is turn this into a Christmas tree somehow. It's about 11 by, well, 10 and a half by 10 and a half. So I should be able to get at least 4 2-inch strips out of this. Okay, so now we have 4 strips of a pine tree. Now, we can do this one of 2 ways. We can make the strips like this. So if we're doing 4 and the first one is 10, it should be 10, 8, 6. Okay, so we want 10 inches. And now we want, you see where I'm going with this now? And now we want 6 inches. Now we want 4. Do I have a 4? Yes, this is going to work. We want a 4-inch piece. And we want our 2-inch top. Okay. I'm winging this, folks, but I'm figuring this out as I go along so that you can actually see how this is going to play out. And 2, and there's the top of our tree. That's going to look really good. And then we're going to make a trunk. So we want a 2-inch square of brown. Okay. So we'll iron those all out. Isn't that good? Ah, that is awesome. Okay. Let's set these aside, and we're going to cut 2-inch strips of our backing material for the tree, the background of the tree. And we have how many pieces to our tree? We have the trunk, and then 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and the trunk. So we need 6 2-inch strips of this material. Just go with me, folks. Make sure you have a good yard of your backing material, a half yard of your contrast material, and at least a fat quarter of your pine tree. Okay? So let's just start ironing these. I'm making this as I go along, folks. I kid you not. I had to think about it for a little bit, and I thought this might just work. So you're actually watching me make this as I kind of design it in my head. All right, there's the parts to our tree. Now these are the strips that are going to, whoops, and I actually probably won't need 6, but I've cut 6 because I'm going to be bordering around as well. I am building this block as I go. And guess what? It all started with the size of the pillow. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make these all at least 16 inches because I want to put a border, but we'll see. Remember, the back of the pillow is 20 inches. So here is 16. And now we're going to cut our 16 strip in half. I'm going to sew my trunk onto a half piece of that 16-inch strip. Using a 1/4-inch seam allowance. I hope that I'm going to sew the other strip, the other half of the strip, onto the other side of the trunk. So now what I have, well, that pulled. Now what I have is the base of my tree. Okay, so when I have the rest of my tree parts with the strips on them, we'll be back. Here is our tree. Now it doesn't matter if the strips are all different lengths on the outside because we're going to trim them as long as the finished width is at least 16 inches, okay? So now I'm going to iron all of these. Pretty sure my iron's still hot, so let's just give it a quick press right on the board here just because I want to pin these together, but they're pretty good and flat. So now I'm going to start I have these laid where I want them, right? So I'm going to start and fold this down. And I'm going to put a pin on either side of the tree trunk, on either side of the bottom of the tree. Like so. Okay. And I'm just going to trim where I measured my original length on either side of the trunk. And now I'm going to sew, giving a 1/4 inch seam allowance, these two pieces together. And we're going to press these two pieces flat. All right, so when I have the rest of this done, we'll be back. Okay, so here's our tree. Now, remember our pillow needs to be 20 inches by 20 inches, and this is a little over 16. And it's only 10 inches from the top of the tree to the bottom of the tree. So we have another 10 inches to play with, which is a cool thing. Because also in the fabric came some of these, you can make a padded wreath, okay? And I am thinking of making another throw cushion like this. But what I like is the idea, where's this one? Let's look at this one. I like the idea of taking one of these wreaths, bottoms, and folding it in half and making a tree skirt. I want to cut my other fabric. I'm not worried about this edge being straight for one simple reason. Go right up here because I may want to make a wreath pillow out of the rest of this. Okay, so let's get our tree here and let's figure out how we're going to do this. I'm measuring as I'm going along, so we want see, this is going to be the perfect width for the bottom of our tree. And I think that's just about right. Now let me just check my length. And we are at 16 inches so far. That still leaves me another 4 inches to top our tree. And I may still trim this bottom. See, folks, we'll see. Quilting isn't necessarily about patterns you find in a book. You can build them however way you want, just as long as you remember to measure twice, cut once, and allow for your seams. So here is our tree skirt. I think that's going to work really well. Come here, look at this, dear. I'm building a cover for the cushion on the couch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look at that.
I got a tree skirt and everything.
Very nice.
Thank you, dear. Okay. Now we will pin again. Either side of the tree trunk. Well, let's flip this over. Either side of the tree trunk. I think Santa Claus is bringing me, well, I know Santa Claus is bringing me some new lighting. So that after this, folks, lighting will always be better, I hope. So now I'm just going to sew this and we'll be Yes, I have a tendency to be messy when I'm creative, folks. Oh, that is adorable. That really is. Now, what I want to do is, it would be kind of nice if this fabric matched here, but let's deal with that after. So now I want to make some topper for our tree. Oops. Now we have these 4 little squares. Cut this in half. We're cutting these diagonally. It's going to look more like a pinwheel than a star, but, you know, we work with what we have. Okay, so now we sew all of these together. Okay, now that we've ironed these all together, we can arrange them in such a way that they kind of do a pinwheel or a star. So now I'm going to sew these blue to white and that. You have to piece it together, but that's what we're doing. It's kind of like a pinwheel. It's not a star, but you know what? We'll work with what we got. Okay, so as you can see, this is not exactly a star, but I'm pretty sure. Now, how big is this square? Now, this square is 2 3/4 inches. But once, yeah, I think that's going to work. We're just going to take another strip and cut it in half. And like we did with the top of the tree and the trunk of the tree, we're just going to sew. I'm actually going to cut this down to 2 inches just to make sure it's going to all work. We want this to be 2 inches, so we need to lose a 1/2 inch all the way around. So I'm going to take a 1/4 inch or so just to tidy it up. And don't go all the way around the outside. Do the top, do the bottom, then turn it over and do each side. Because now you know exactly where your 2 inches is. We see where the center of our star is? We're going to put the cross piece of the ruler into the center of the star. And then we're just going to continue to cut it down to the same size as the strip, which is 2 inches. And we want this to come up to 2 inches, the center of the star. And Bob's your uncle, we have it now the same size, as my 2-inch strip. And I'm going to sew my star with a strip on either side so that we can center it above the tree. Oh, I think that's going to be beautiful. Look at that. We get a star on top of the tree. Okay. Now we're going to pin our star directly on either side of the treetop. No, folks, there's no pattern to this. I'm just doing it. But if you know how to sew and you know how to work with strips, you can make almost any picture you want with strips. You just have to use your imagination. And I'm going to go across the top with this. And I'm going to sew this over the top of the tree. There. So now we have the space above the tree. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in four, using the tree as my center of marker. And I'm going to trim down the sides. Just want to make this sharp. We're using our bottom as a line, and I'm just going to trim that side. That's both sides. And now I'm going to trim the top and the bottom. No more than a 1/2 inch. Why? Because then we're messing with our balance of the skirt and the star in the center. Now, how big is this? This is 16.5 inches by, well, okay, the top's a little bit wider. So it's roughly 16.5 inches. So now we need a border of 2 inches wide all the way around, because we're going to lose some with the seam allowances. So I'm going to use the same fabric as the backing for our border, and we're just going to keep it really, really simple. Keeping things simple, all except for the star. I'm keeping everything in 2-inch strips. The backing, I realized that I have to have a way for the pillow to get in the back without putting a zipper in. So I actually need 2 pieces, 20 inches by 14 inches. And I'll show you why in a minute. Again, if you are not comfortable with freestyle sewing, please feel free to pin all your pieces of fabric together. But I am in creative mode, and so I'm going to start at the upper corner here with the right sides of the work facing each other. And I'm just going to start sewing using the same seam allowance I've used all along. Putting this strip down one side of our cushion front. Trim the edge off. Right level with the rest of the cushion. You gonna be okay, honey? You don't sound like you getting a bit of cold. Well, good thing we're having chicken soup for supper. And again, down. Now at this point you may want to reverse over the corners just to, and you do want your 2-inch strips longer than the cushion, because it gets wider as you add these strips. Okay, so here is our finished cushion front. Isn't that lovely? It's pretty as a picture, even with the frame. So, 14 inches wide, which is right here. So I'm going to bring this up and fold it. It's still long, but we're going to cut it at the 14-inch mark. Right there. And then we're going to fold it. We're going to put the fold right here. And we're going to cut this at the 10-inch mark so that it is 20 inches wide. I'm going to take this other piece and I'm going to cut it at 14 inches wide. Like how I cut, do you? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two pieces and I am going to make sure, okay, one's longer than the other, so we'll have to fix that. I'm overlapping them enough so that I'm still going to have enough for the rest of the pillow, but I want, this is going to be where we open to put our pillow in. Do you understand? So this doesn't need a seam. This does. So I'm going to put on our inside of our flaps, I'm just going to run a 1/4 inch seam or hem down the inside part. So here is the way the cushion back is going to go. We have an overlap here so that we can open the pillow, open the back, but it's not, the pillow's not going to be sticking out. So we just want to make sure now we're going to put these together right sides of work facing. Okay, so now I have my cushion front. I'm really sorry about the close quarters here, folks. It's just the way it is. Okay, so this is the right side of the top. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this all the way around to the cushion front. Now the cushion front is a little bit bigger, and that's okay, because it's bigger all the way around than the actual pillow itself. So I gave myself room to grow. So now we're taking the other one and putting it right sides of work facing with the hemmed seam in and overlapping. One is still longer than the other, makes no difference. What I'm going to do now is I am just going to roll this edge over by about 1/2 inch. Remember, I have room to play with the width because I made this, designed this bigger than the original pillow, just in case things had to be trimmed. Now what this does is it gives your seam a nice, heavy hem so that it won't come apart at the seams. If your husband, someone happens to throw themselves down on the couch or has a pillow fight, whatever, we want to make sure that this is going to hold up. You don't have to do the fold if you don't want to. I just like to give my outside seams more stability. Let's turn it right side in. Iron these seams down. The only thing I don't like is this little wee sewing line mark. But you know what? I think this is awesome. This all pressed, just make it a little more crisp looking. Our pillowcase, and push it down in one side, right to the corners. And then we're going to pull our flap up, and because I sewed all the outside edges with a folded double seam, look at that. Isn't that cool? But if you have a favorite throw pillow, folks, and you want to make it a little more festive, and you got the fabric, you just saw how easy it was. All you have to do is know how to measure and cut and sew. This is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, I don't know about you, but I'm really pleased. What'd you think of my pillow? Awesome. And red with me this holiday season. Take care, God bless.